From the heart-pumping dramas that play out on the streets to the somber salutes honoring lives lost in the process, the stark images reinforce the public notion that those who take the oath to protect and serve work under one color of authority, blue. But inside the Newark Police Department, away from public view, the reality in the minds of a growing number of minority officers is that compared to their white counterparts, the blue line divides over how they're treated. Good evening, I'm Brian Jenkins with a look at the Newark Police Department that no one inside the department and few who oversee it are willing to talk about. Among the sworn, allegations of corruption, racism, and retaliation against those who speak out, all of it creating an undercurrent of distrust and a tidal wave of court battles, costing Newark taxpayers millions. We begin with the stories of two former officers who say they were fired for revealing police corruption, part of a bruising and repetitive phenomenon we've titled Black and Blue. In February of '07, two alleged drug dealers being processed into the Newark Central Jail complained to Gene Collins, at the time a Newark police detective who was working intake, that they'd been ripped off by cops. He took that story to Internal Affairs, where investigators videotaped his interview. In it, revelations, Collins says, got him fired. In the 4 years since, he and his lawyers say they've made repeated requests for that videotape and that the department told them they couldn't find it. News 12 did.
From the individuals that were arrested that day, it was $85,000 that was allegedly taken from the job.
The job meaning a drug bust.
So I looked at the report and said it's confiscated was only $16,000. I was like, whoa.
Collins named members of an NPD South District narcotics unit under the command of then veteran Lieutenant Neil Minovich.
And I read the report, 802 was Minovich and the property was Minovich. So I'm just remembering from hindsight working where it was large sums of money that every time it was large sums of money you would do the property and the 802. And I was like,
so Minovich would always handle large sums of money?
Right.
But you think he's the ringleader? You think
he is the ringleader.
I get the feeling that you think that this is not...
It's not bullshit.
Not this job, but that there's been past jobs that maybe...
Oh, there's a lot of jobs. There's a lot of jobs.
Instead of investigating the allegations of drug money thefts, the department turned on Collins for failing to report what it called a threat to another officer. Collins told investigators that days after the bust where the money was allegedly taken, he was confronted at this Irvington barbershop by a stranger who said he knew Collins was a friend of one of the cops involved and that, quote, these people want their money back.
So you think that, not only possibly your life might be in danger, but also the life of Officer...
No, because he didn't make a threat.
Internal Affairs insists there was a threat, but the officer who reported it admitted waiting 9 days to do so after Collins says he refused to report the encounter without mentioning the stolen money. Meantime, Collins was getting real threats.
They sent rats to the house. 3 dead rats, and it said, if you know what's good for you, keep your mouth shut, Collins.
Transcripts from administrative hearings show that Collins' report of the drug money theft was never considered. Asked about the 802 incident report on that bust, an Internal Affairs lieutenant testified, "We couldn't find it." And when questioned about the money, he responded, "That had nothing to do with this threat."
The money is the substance of everything. If there's a so-called fear, then the question becomes, why? The Newark Police Department never wanted to know the why.
Retired Newark Police Captain Scott Bay tells us,
there was no investigation in the money, and the IED said that themselves. They never followed the money or investigated the money. It doesn't make a bit of sense. But like I said, I think somebody didn't want him to open up a can of worms.
Meantime, Neil Minovich, the commanding officer of that narcotics unit accused of ripping off drug dealers, retired last year and took a job as head of security at St. Barnabas Medical Center. He met with me briefly off camera. His only response, quote, "It's disgruntled officers. I'm out of it," unquote. But his name came up again. In the months before Gene Collins' revelations, then Officer Jose Montalvo, who never worked with Collins, had joined other officers online, lighting up a website called Newark Speaks. Under cover of nicknames, they too posted accusations that Lieutenant Neil Minovich and his narcotics team were stealing drug money. Montalvo says Internal Affairs jumped, but not to look into the alleged thefts.
They tried to find out everyone that was posting stuff on the internet that seemed to have intimate